There's more happening here than may be immediately apparent. I mean in life, life on earth. In your life, in my life, and in life on earth. There's more going on than meets the eye. Or to put it another way, life is not as it may seem to be. I want you to consider the possibility that there's something we do not fully understand here about God, about ourselves, and about life, the understanding of which would change everything. That's step number one. Openness. Step number one is openness. We must, as we explore the question of self-realization, we must eliminate the possibility of falling into what psychologists call the Semmelweis reflex. Have you ever heard of the Semmelweis reflex? The Semmelweis reflex is named after a physician who was born in Budapest and who was a hospital doctor in Vienna in the 1800s. And his name was Ignaz Semmelweis. And he noticed something at the Vienna General Hospital. He noticed that the mortality rate of babies being born in the maternity ward was much higher than it should have been. Babies were dying, too many of them, right after birth. And he wondered why. And then he decided to do something very unusual that most doctors in those days never did. He washed his hands before delivering the baby. See, what was happening, and he figured this out, what was happening is that the doctors were coming from the other operating room, or they were coming from the autopsy, where they were working with cadavers, with people who had died. And they were coming from that room into the delivery room and delivering the babies, and they never even, believe this or not, they never even washed their hands. Doctors did not believe that you had to wash your hands between operations. This is in 1847. Check your history. I'm not making this up. So Semmelweis decided, what would happen if I washed my hands and maybe even used kind of like a chlorine bleach and just sterilized my hands and sterilized the instruments? And the death rate, the mortality rate in the maternity ward went way down, like 50% fewer deaths in the maternity ward. He thought, wow, everybody is going to be so excited to hear this development. But nobody was. None of the doctors in the medical profession would believe it. Even when they saw the statistical evidence, they rejected it. It's called the Semmelweis reflex. When we refuse, catch this, listen carefully, the Semmelweis reflex, when we refuse to take in new information because it contradicts what we already believe. It contradicts what we already hold to be true. And so we reject it, even when the evidence is clear that the new truth is more true than the old truth. Someone once said, all great truth begins as blasphemy. Remember that. All great truth begins as blasphemy. That is, we don't believe it. How can that be true? We've been told all of our lives that this is true. How can that be true? So we immediately reject it. So step number one in self-realization is to agree with yourself that there's something we don't fully understand here about God, about life, and about ourselves. The understanding of which would change everything. See, the problem with most of us, and it was my problem too, without a doubt, it was my problem too, is we think we already have all the answers. We think we already know the important things to know about God, about ourselves, and about life. So we have not held out the possibility that there's something we don't fully understand about these things. We think at our age, 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe some of us are 70 or 80, surely by now we understand. And so we act as if we already know the answers to life's biggest questions. So, to repeat, step number one is to be open to answers that you would have previously rejected because they contradict what you think you already know on these subjects. You see, there's something interesting that happens to human beings. In the area of our most important beliefs, our beliefs about God, our beliefs about life, our beliefs about ourselves, in the area of our most important beliefs, we are very reluctant. Actually, we refuse to do what we do in every other area of human experience. We do it in science. We do it in medicine. We do it in technology. We do it in all of the important areas of life, except the most important area of life, which is our fundamental belief about God and about life and about ourselves. And here's what we refuse to do regarding our beliefs. We refuse to question the prior assumption. Think about that.